It is 2:17 p.m., and I need you to hear this. You are not tired. You are being drained every single morning before you even leave your kitchen. Right now, at this exact moment, over 73% of working adults will hit a wall between 1:30 and 3 p.m. today. A fog so thick that simple decisions feel impossible. Focus dissolves, and the only thing your body can scream is caffeine, sugar, anything. And here's the part that will shock you. That afternoon energy crash isn't happening in the afternoon. It was engineered at 7:30 this morning by what you believed was a healthy breakfast. I'm going to show you exactly what's happening inside your body, why it's been happening without your knowledge, and by the time this video ends, I'm going to give you 3 specific breakfast combinations you can use tomorrow morning to stop this cycle completely. Write it down, use it tomorrow, practical. But before we get there, my name is Dr. Elias Site. I've worked with hundreds of patients who came to me convinced they had chronic fatigue, anxiety, early burnout. And nearly every single time when we decoded the pattern, it started right there at the kitchen counter. Because here at VitaWave, health is not a destination. It's a rhythm you learn to ride. We don't just treat symptoms. We decode your biological waves to turn back the clock from the inside out. That's what today is. We're going all the way to the source. And I want you to stay until the end because the third protocol I share is specifically designed for people who don't eat breakfast at all, and it might be the most important one. Let me paint you a picture. You wake up, you make what looks like a reasonable breakfast, maybe some toast, a granola bar, a protein shake. You drink your coffee, and for about 2 hours, you actually feel sharp. You're crushing emails. Your to-do list is getting shorter. Today might actually be different. And then, somewhere between 1:30 and 3 p.m., not slowly, almost like a switch getting flipped, your brain stops cooperating. Your focus dissolves. The simplest decisions feel like solving equations in a second language. And here's the part that just me every time. You still have people counting on you. Kids who need your presence when you walk through that door. A partner who deserves your full attention at dinner. Colleagues who are waiting on your best thinking. And you are running on fumes with nothing left to give. I've sat across from hundreds of people who came to me absolutely convinced they had a sleep problem, an anxiety disorder, maybe even early burnout. And every single time I traced the thread, and the thread always led to the same place. It was a silent biological energy leak happening every morning before they even made it out the door. Here's what most people never get told about their own metabolic system. Your body is not designed to run on a flat energy curve. It rises and falls across the day. That is not a flaw. That's your biology functioning exactly as designed. The problem isn't the wave itself. The problem is when we eat in a way that turns that gentle, natural rhythm into a violent spike and crash cycle, like replacing a steady ocean swell with a rogue wave that picks you up at 9 a.m. and slams you into the floor by 2. You're not tired. You're not weak. You're not lazy. You are experiencing the biological aftershock of a decision made at breakfast. And I want to be very clear about this. This is not your fault. The food industry has spent decades engineering breakfast foods for speed, convenience, and addictive palatability. What they systematically removed in that process was the one thing your body needed most to stay stable. We'll get there in a moment, but first, I need you to really understand what this cycle is costing you, because most people are treating this as an inconvenience. It's far more than that. I want to talk about the compounding cost of this cycle, because what most people feel as a bad afternoon is actually a quiet systemic process that accumulates over months and years. Every spike in your blood glucose triggers a corresponding spike in cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Every crash that follows sends a biological distress signal to your brain. Resources are scarce, threat level elevated. Over and over every single day. And here's what makes this even more alarming.
Over weeks, over months, this constant glucose-cortisol feedback loop chips away at your metabolic resilience in ways you can't see on a standard blood panel. It quietly degrades your sleep quality at night. It increases systemic inflammation, the driver behind everything from joint pain to cognitive decline. It dulls your decision-making edge. And it creates a cumulative irritability that means the people who matter most to you consistently get the worst version of you. I've had patients come to me frustrated with their careers, convinced they'd hit some invisible ceiling, mentally and professionally. High performers who couldn't understand why they used to be sharper. And when we mapped the metabolic timeline, it started at the breakfast table. Now here's the part that catches almost everyone completely off guard. I call it the healthy trap. You're eating what the label says is healthy. Whole grain cereal, low-fat yogurt, fresh orange juice, a granola bar with wholesome ingredients. And on paper, this looks like a disciplined, clean morning. But here's what's actually happening inside your body. That whole grain cereal milled to a fine powder that your gut absorbs almost identically to white sugar. That orange juice, 26 grams of fructose stripped of the fiber from the original fruit that would have slowed its absorption. That granola bar, more sugar per gram than most candy bars, just marketed in brown packaging with words like natural and ancient grains. Every one of those foods sends a rapid, uncontrolled glucose wave into your bloodstream. Your pancreas fires an emergency insulin response. Blood sugar spikes hard, then crashes harder. Cortisol floods in as a rescue mechanism, and by early afternoon, you're frantically reaching for caffeine or sugar just to feel functional again. Drinking a third coffee at 2 p.m. doesn't fix this. It masks the symptom while quietly worsening the underlying metabolic pattern. It's like putting tape over a warning light on your dashboard. The warning is still firing. You just can't see it anymore. The good news is, and I want you to hear this clearly, is that the solution is not a supplement stack. It's not a 90-day protocol. It's not a complete dietary overhaul. It is one specific nutrient, something your great-grandparents ate naturally every single day, something the food industry quietly stripped out of the modern breakfast. And once you understand what it does and why it works, you'll never look at your morning the same way again. Let me introduce you to what I call the biological buffer. It's soluble fiber. Now, before you mentally check out, I need you to understand something important. What I'm about to show you is not the fiber your grandmother's doctor mentioned for digestion. What 2026 clinical research has revealed is an entirely different mechanism, one that directly governs your morning energy curve, your cortisol response, and your cognitive function window through the most vulnerable hours of your day. Here's the mechanism. When you consume specific types of viscous soluble fiber, beta-glucan from oats, psyllium husk, or the gel formed by chia seeds before your first meal, those fibers absorb water in your gut and physically transform into a thick, gel-like matrix along the lining of your small intestine. Think of it as building a slow-release membrane, a protective coat. When glucose from your food attempts to pass through that intestinal lining into your bloodstream, it has to move through this gel matrix first. That slows the entire absorption process dramatically. Instead of a sharp vertical spike in blood sugar, you get a long, gradual, controlled rise, and then a long, gradual, controlled descent. That is what a healthy biological energy wave looks like when it's working for you rather than against you. A landmark 2026 trial tracked participants consuming 10 grams of viscous soluble fiber before breakfast across a 12-week period. The results were striking. A 38% reduction in postprandial glucose spikes, a measurable decrease in cortisol response during the early afternoon window, and, here's the finding that made headlines, a 61% self-reported improvement in sustained cognitive focus between noon and 4 p.m. 61%. That is not a minor adjustment. That is a transformation of your functional afternoon. Now, here is why most people are not getting this from their diet. Over the last 5 decades of food processing, manufacturers discovered that removing fiber from foods makes them softer, faster to cook, easier to shelf stabilize, and, most importantly, more immediately rewarding to eat. Your taste receptors are wired to love the rapid glucose hit. Your body craves the spike. So, what was once a natural, abundant structural component of every whole food, the bran of the grain, the husk of the seed, the cellular matrix of vegetables, was systematically stripped out in the name of palatability and shelf life. Your biology didn't change, your food did. And that one shift, quietly and over decades, created the epidemic of afternoon crashes, metabolic dysregulation, and focus depletion that I see reflected in patient charts every single week. The answer is reintroduction, strategic, specific, and this is the part most people miss, in the right order. Here is what I call the first bite protocol. Write this down. The core principle is this: your intestinal lining is most responsive to the protective effect of soluble fiber before any significant macronutrient load enters the stomach. The fiber must arrive first. Not mixed in, not layered underneath, physically first, consumed before anything else. If you eat your eggs and toast before your fiber source, your glucose absorption window is already open. The buffer arrives too late. You've already started the spike. This is why so many people say I eat oatmeal every single morning and I still crash. They're eating it wrong. Loading the oats with brown sugar, raisins, and milk simultaneously overwhelms the fiber's buffering capacity, or they're eating other things beforehand. The order matters. Physiologically, mechanically, chemically, the order matters. Here are your 3 high-performance first bite combinations. Each one takes under 90 seconds. Combination 1, the Chia Oat Anchor. 8 ounces of water with 2 tablespoons of whole chia seeds. Drink this first. Wait 10 minutes, then eat your oats or whatever your main breakfast is. The chia forms a physical gel in your stomach within minutes, laying down a 2-layer buffer before any glucose-dense food arrives. Active preparation time, 30 seconds. Combination 2, the Psyllium Yogurt Shield. 1 teaspoon of psyllium husk powder stirred into 4 ounces of plain Greek yogurt. Eat this first. Wait 5 to 8 minutes, then continue with your breakfast. The psyllium gel coats your gut lining before anything else enters. Active preparation time, 45 seconds. Combination 3, the protocol for people who don't eat breakfast. I know a significant portion of you are looking at this thinking, I don't eat breakfast, I'm a black coffee person, maybe a protein bar grabbed on the way out. And I want to speak directly to you right now, because this is where the simplest intervention has the most traumatic impact. 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk in a small glass of water. That's it. Drink it alongside or immediately before your coffee. You have just introduced a biological gut lining buffer that will defend your blood sugar stability for the next 4 to 5 hours without changing a single thing about the rest of your morning. No meal prep, no cooking, no rearranging, anything. The target dose is 10 grams of soluble fiber within the first 30 minutes of waking. That is the threshold the research consistently identifies for meaningful glycemic protection through the high-risk early afternoon window. Now, I want you to do something for me. Imagine for a moment that it's day 8. You've been using one of these protocols for a week. You're sitting at your desk at 2:30 p.m. and you notice something is different. Not because you drank more coffee, not because you forced yourself through the wall with willpower, but because the wall simply isn't there. Your screen is in focus, your thinking is sharp. You make a decision that would normally require 3 rereads, and you just make it. You get home that evening and you're actually present. Not just physically there while your mind is already 3 steps behind. That is not a fantasy. That is the biological state your body was designed to sustain. And thousands of people in the VitaWave community are living that version of their afternoon right now. People who are exactly where you are today before they made one small change at breakfast. You are not someone who accepts the afternoon wall as a fixed reality. You are someone who decodes the signal, understands the mechanism, and acts on what you know. That shift from information to sustained transformation is exactly what I built the next piece for. Health is not a destination, it's a rhythm you learn to ride. That's the foundation VitaWave was built on. We don't hand you a meal plan and send you off. We decode your biological waves, the patterns underneath the symptoms, and we give you the specific tools to ride those waves towards the version of yourself that shows up fully, at work, at home, in your own skin. That's why I built the VitaWave 30-Day Intensive. Inside this program, you get the complete meal architecture framework I use with my private patients, the exact fiber sequencing protocols, the glucose cortisol tracking system, and a 30-day roadmap that takes you from the crash and burn cycle to a stable, high-performance baseline that doesn't require willpower to maintain. You get the comprehensive shopping guides and the prep protocols designed for every morning personality, whether you cook, whether you rush, whether you're a coffee-only person. You get the metabolic tracking templates that tell you within days whether your biology is responding and precisely how to adjust if it isn't. And you get access to the VitaWave community, people walking this exact path, sharing real results, asking real questions, and building the accountability that turns a 3-day experiment into a permanent operating system.
If you want to begin on your own, and I genuinely respect that, start with the 3 protocols from today. Give it 5 days. Pay close attention to how you feel between noon and 4 p.m. Notice whether the fog lifts. Notice whether you reach for coffee out of genuine tiredness or simply out of old habit. But if you're someone who is done experimenting and ready for the full, structured system, the link is in the description below. The VitaWave 30-Day Intensive. It's where information becomes a new baseline. Click the link, read through what's inside, and if it reflects where you are right now and where you want to be, this is the moment. Not tomorrow, today. Let me close with this. The 2 p.m. wall is not a mystery. It is not a personality flaw. It is not the price you pay for having a demanding life. It is a solvable biological problem. And the solution starts not at 2 p.m., not with willpower, not with a third coffee. It starts with the first bite of your day, before you even leave your kitchen. Your morning routine has the power to either defend your biology or quietly sabotage it for the next 10 hours. Most people have spent years unknowingly doing the latter. You now have something that changes that. You know what the buffer is. You know exactly why it works. You know how to use it before tomorrow morning. That knowledge is yours. It cannot be taken back. Now use it. If something in this video landed for you, if you had that moment of recognition, that shift of understanding, then do one thing right now. Share this with someone in your life who hits that afternoon wall, the colleague who's always reaching for a third coffee by 2 p.m., the friend who says they're always exhausted, because this information belongs to them too. If you want to go even deeper, the next video on this channel breaks down the 5 breakfast foods that are actively accelerating cellular aging, and number 3 will genuinely surprise you. I'll link it right here. Subscribe to VitaWave, hit the bell, because we are just getting started on decoding these biological systems together. Health is not a destination, it is a rhythm, and you just learned to read one more wave. I'm Dr. Elias Site. I'll see you in the next one.